This is Japan in the Middle Ages. There's constant warfare and all the lands are ruined by destruction. On top of that, there is a massive drought, so no one has anything to eat. In this state of horror, a poor and weak woman slowly walks in the rugged lanes with her bare feet. The woman is pregnant, but she has no one to help her in delivering the baby. She goes to a temple and literally pushes the baby out all by herself. Then she sheds a tear because of how painful that was. Suddenly a beast attacks them, so the woman takes an axe and cuts it down. Despite being weak and hungry herself, she feeds the baby the last remainders of her breast milk. Later, she goes so crazy with hunger that when she comes across a corpse, she sees it as meat. Same for her baby. She could just barbecue the little thing and eat it, but she does not. To avoid temptation, she abandons the baby. 8 years later, the boy has taken up his mother's axe and he wanders the lands, killing humans and eating them. Yes, the kid is now a cannibal. Like here, he attacks an innocent family and kills all members, and then he eats them. One day, he comes across a helpless monk on a bridge and he prepares to do his animalistic duties on him. But the monk is way too skillful for him, and he easily evades his attacks and disarms him. The monk realizes that the boy is a cannibal, and he does not even know how to talk like a normal human. He knocks out the boy and takes him to a cave. There, he cooks some good food for him, and the boy eats it up like a dog. The monk says that humans are not meant to kill each other, but to help each other. Then he gives the boy more food, and in return, he forces the boy to recite his ancient Buddhist mantra. The boy manages to speak for the first time, even if it's just a mantra which he does not understand. Then the monk gives him the food and gives him the name Asura. The monk continues on his journey and Asura follows after him. Later, a man named Tsuchiro and some kids are taking a log to their village. One of the kids drops from fatigue, so Asura rushes to eat him, but Tsuchiro kicks him away. But a huge bird attacks the unconscious boy, so Asura fights the bird and sends it away. In return, Tsuchiro gives him a bit of food. The other kids say he's like a dog. Then Tsuchiro and the boys continue taking the log. They have to pass another village, but some kids throw rocks at them and demand payment to let them pass. Tsuchiro has nothing to pay them with, so the boys throw more rocks at them. One of those rocks accidentally hits Asura, who was following in the back. Asura becomes absolutely furious, and he goes full berserk mode on the kids. The dude just chomps down the boy's neck like it's a nice cheeseburger, but turns out the brat that Asura killed was actually the only son of that village's lord. The lord comes to the scene with his guards and demands to know who did this. When he finds out that it was Asura, he chases after him all over the village and into the hills. The lord catches up to him and they have a face-off, but Asura climbs onto him and he bites his neck as well. Then they fight near the edge of a cliff and Asura actually falls off it. But he survives because he falls on heaps upon heaps of corpses, but he's still injured and cannot walk properly. One day, a beautiful villager named Wakasa finds Asura bleeding in the river. Wakasa takes him to an abandoned hut and puts a red-hot poker on his wounds to stop him from bleeding. Then she bandages him and feeds him rice cakes. Wakasa continues to take care of Asura, bringing him food and drinks in secret. Every time, Asura recites the mantra that the monk taught him before eating. Wakasa gets excited, and over a long period, she steadily teaches him how to speak. Even though it is so risky for her, Wakasa continues hiding Asura from the other villagers. One day as she's returning home from working in the fields, she sees that Asura has come all the way there to look at her. Then he takes her to a secluded spot in the hills where no one can see them. Later, Wakasa talks about how she'd like to leave the village and run away to the city with Tsuchiro. One night, Wakasa brings food for Asura, but she goes away without speaking to him. Later, when Wakasa is working, he takes her sickle and walks away, but she calms him down and holds him until he smiles. Later, she cooks for him and then goes back home. Tsuchiro is waiting for her. Later, it starts to rain and Asura goes to look for Wakasa. He finds her with Tsuchiro in a secluded hut as they're discussing their plans to run away from this village. Asura gets jealous, so he takes the axe that is outside and goes in. He jumps in and hits Tsuchiro, injuring him. Then Asura starts hitting the ground out of frustration. Wakasa becomes angry with him and she screams at him, calling him a demon and everything. Asura becomes even sadder. He leaves the village while repeating the words demon. That night, a huge landslide comes down from the hills and destroys the entire village. Asura survives because he was no longer there. Sometime later, the same monk arrives at the village and witnesses the death and destruction that occurred there. He makes a small prayer to Buddha. Then he comes across Asura, who is crying and saying that it would have been better if he had not been born. The monk is surprised that Asura can now speak. Asura keeps saying that he's not a human, but a demon. Then he attacks the monk, but the monk knocks him down and says that Asura has a human heart. Then he takes Asura's axe and chops off his own arm as a sacrifice to Buddha. He offers his arm for Asura to eat. But Asura realizes that he does not want to eat the meat of someone whom he personally knows, so he runs away. Meanwhile, Wakasa and her father are having a hard time because the landslide destroyed all their crops and they have nothing to eat. One of the villagers suggests the father to sell Wakasa for a high price in exchange for money to survive. But the father yells at the man, saying that he would never sell his own daughter. Wakasa goes out to beg for food, but of course, no one has anything to give. Even Sachiro can't help her. Over time, both Wakasa and her father become weak. They start dying. Sachiro tries to take some of the food from his group, but the other kids are hungry as well, and they fight him instead. Asura sees the difficult situation that Wakasa is in, so he goes and kills one of the horses from the Lord's house. Then he takes the horse meat to feed Wakasa. When the Lord finds out that Asura is still alive and killing his horses, he calls all the villagers to hunt him. He offers a reward of lots of rice to whoever kills Asura. Wakasa's father also prepares to join the hunt, but just then, Asura himself enters their home and puts the horse meat in front of them. Both Wakasa and her father almost become mad with temptation, but Wakasa throws the meat away as she believes that it's human meat. Even when he says that it's horse meat, she does not believe him, but her father believes him. Asura gives him half the meat, which he devours raw. Then he secretly runs away. Asura cries and begs Wakasa to take the meat. He says that he just wants to help her, so that they can become friends like before. But Wakasa still hates him and she refuses to forgive him. Instead, she decides to just lie down and die. Asura cries and says that he wants her to live, that she must live. Just then, the Lord arrives with all the villagers, brought by Wakasa's father. So Asura rushes at them and dodges all their attacks, and he runs away into the forest. The whole village comes after him and their torches light up the night. Asura ambushes many of the villagers and kills them one by one. The Lord comes after him solo, but Asura hides in the grass. Then he surprises the Lord and knocks him off his horse. The whole scene is set up like the final battle of Sekiro, but it's less dramatic. Asura literally one-shots the Lord, who just drops and dies without even a second health bar. Noob. Asura then runs away while the villagers still come after him. They manage to trap him on a broken bridge and they burn it from both sides. So Asura runs toward one of the ends and goes full Legolas over it, but it's no use and he falls down. Later, we see that the whole forest has been burnt up by the villagers' fires. Sometime later, Sachiro and the boys take Wakasa's corpse away. On the way, Sachiro sees Asura, but neither of them does anything to the other. They just pass by. After all, they both have their own pain. Much later, Asura has now grown up and he's a monk as well. He makes wooden Buddha sculptures, while the main monk says that Asura has learned to live despite all the troubles he has faced. That's what makes humanity so beautiful. In the post-credit scene, we see that the land is no longer barren and suffering. It's now rich and green and prosperous. Huge cities have popped up and the people seem to be doing well.
Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.